Okay, so we got our technical issues resolved, thankfully. He's got so much amazing energy. He's gonna, he can put a lot of things out of order. So let's grab our seats real quick so we can go ahead with this amazing conversation that we have. And right after, we're gonna have a meet and greet with the speakers and the exhibitors. So from 6 to 7 p.m., you guys are more than welcome to stick around and have a conversation with all the amazing speakers that we had and pay a visit to the exhibitors so you can have a pretty awesome session. All right, if you'd like to start.
Okay, I'm here again. Let's try it again. Let's see. As I said before, thank you, Nima. Thank you for the opportunity to share my experience and my work on the last 20 years. And I'm Joaquin Machado. I live in Miami area. I have there my office and my laboratory. I'm EMF researcher since 2000. I was involved to EMF research related to microwave oven and how the food is affected. And I was working with the professor Hans Hertel from Switzerland. I participated in different congress in Germany in the early 2000s. And thanks to Dr. Neil Cherry from New Zealand, I started to understand much better about electromagnetic fields in 2002. And Dr. George Carlo in the US gave me the eye-opening understanding of electromagnetic fields. But as I said before, for me, in the first 7 years, it was only a matter of, okay, cell phone radiation could maybe be potentially carcinogenic. We can develop brain cancer, and that's what only my thought around this. So my only focus was, okay, let's educate people around the potential risk and teach them how they can be really aware of the type of radiation they are exposed on a daily basis. But when I get married, my wife, she's an engineer, she's there on the back, and she was suffering from a syndrome that we couldn't understand. It was very difficult to understand because she has different symptoms and signs. And she can handle it. She stopped to handle it to be exposed to Wi-Fi router. She can handle the Bluetooth signals. She can handle different type of normal frequencies that we are interacting every day. So she started to have a sleep disorders in hormone level. She can sleep, so she can really have like a chronic fatigue, but we go to every doctor. At that time, we live in Venezuela, and they said, you have nothing. We go to Dutch Caribbean. We go to speak with doctors in Europe. And finally, one of the doctors, friend of mine from several years, on EMF, she told me, Joaquin, your wife is suffering from microwave syndrome. Nowadays, it's called electrohypersensitivity. Get in touch with the Dutch Federation around electrohypersensitive people and learn more about this. And I say, oh my God, why we don't know that? And we go and we get in touch with them. We're trying to get in touch here with the Electrosensitive Society in America, in the US. And we have several friends in Germany, and they really, in Germany, they are really advanced in this. In the 80s, they already have several solutions for EMF. They understand totally. They call it electrosmog. So I start to go deep in this, looking for solutions. I never planned to build any company. I never planned to build any product related. We were planning to have normal life, and keep educating people from risk. But the problem was we started to get all the different solutions in the market. And I was involved with a space agency of China, and with anti-radiation clothes. We try it. We try all carpets, everything, the shielding approach. And sometimes you feel good, sometimes you feel bad. We don't understand how really the mechanisms of this. So we open a project to look for solutions to keep using technology and somehow have a normal life if you are an electro-hypersensitive people. At that time, I knew about electro-hypersensitivity through also Professor Olli Johansson from Sweden, from the Karolinska Institute, and he say only 2% of world population is going to really experience electro-hypersensitivity. Maybe 1 of 4, they're going to have some sensitivities, but not hypersensitivity. So we focus in the persons like my wife, and we look for people. We moved from Venezuela for different political reasons. We need to go to live in Aruba Island in the Dutch Caribbean. If we try to find people that were suffering from this type of signs and symptoms they can understand, in order to work with them and learn all about electromagnetic hygiene, how we can detox our spaces. And that's the way everything begins. So if you see any home and you see, okay, it's clean, we're safe. But you can see the electromagnetic fields around electronic devices. The problem with the electrosmog is you can't see it. Actually, this picture is showing you how it looks with a software, very professional software, around how it looks the Wi-Fi router in your home. And you see it's like a sun. So it's what is called the near field exposure. If you are in the same room where the Wi-Fi router is, you are immersed in the near field exposure. And we have in the near field, we have 2 types of immersed type of frequencies. It's low frequency radiation, and it's also high frequency radiation. But in the other rooms, you're still receiving Wi-Fi, but it's not near field exposure, it's far field exposure. So we start to study what happened with the near field. In trying to understand, and this is really something that changed for us totally the direction of our project, because we start to realize the problem was also electrical. And when we have a wire, we are immersed in electric and magnetic fields. And the electrification that we have in our homes in the last decade is crazy. So we start to measure, and we choose the island of Aruba to measure for 7 years in a row, the whole island, all the different industrial facilities, residential areas, commercial areas, hotels, airport, natural parks. We measure everything for 7 years to understand the change from 3G to 4G. And we realized the problem was not only the microwave radiation, the problem was that we are electrification in our homes is increasing the exposure to extreme low frequency fields related to the use of electricity. And these fields are called the near field. These fields are like bubbles around the electronic devices. And some of these bubbles are larger because they're using more energy. And some bubbles are shorter. So if you have a Wi-Fi router, depending on the amount of power the router is using, the bubble is going to be larger or shorter. And the same happens with any electronic device. So we found 34 people suffering from electro-hypersensitivity, and from these 34 people, 33 was women, only one man. Only one man. And from these 33 people in the island of Aruba, we found that 20 have sleep disorders. They can't sleep, like my wife. And in some cases, I say, okay, the reason is the cell phone. The reason is the cell phone. The reason is the cell phone tower. I'm sure of that. But after 20 years, in science, experimental evidence break your belief. It doesn't matter where you believe. The evidence, the data show you a different condition. So when I started doing research, most of these women, they didn't even use cell phone. They don't have cell phone. I say, okay, what happened? How they are immersed in such sensitivity? And we realized in Aruba, they built the houses with electrical panel, the main switch panel of the electrical in the master bedroom. Okay? So they were immersed in a super bubble from the electrical panel and near field exposure. There was no smart meter at that time. So we go deep in this. Of course, this is crazy. And we make a map. Okay, the Federation, the Dutch Federation, they have a 70 signs, symptoms and signs. Let's reduce it. We work with a multidisciplinary group. It will reduce it to 25. This is the most common signs and symptoms that people are suffering from EHS. They are getting without an unknown cause. Maybe some of you are suffering from some of this. In environmental medicine in Europe, they call this, the EHS is part of an increased sensitivity in the nervous system. So when you get an electrohypersensitivity syndrome, you sometimes start to develop a light sensitivity, a noise sensitivity, and tinnitus is a ringing in the ears. And nowadays, the tinnitus is very common. I will show you some interesting facts of this. And multiple chemical sensitivity. So we say, okay, if the people are not aware they're suffering from electromagnetic pollution, maybe we should look for people suffering from multiple chemical sensitivity. Let's talk with doctors, and they're receiving these patients, and we can start surveys around the habits they have, the type of where they're living, how close they are for high voltage line, and we try to see if some of these people actually are electrohypersensitive. And if we treat the environment, maybe we will see a difference in the multiple chemical sensitivity, and that was true. And it was very, very interesting, and we don't have any money at that time, but we choose these 34 people, and they help us to build a crowdfunding movement. So we start the first formulation about the Spiro, this product that you see in here, it was actually through crowdfunding for people suffering like my wife. At that time, we don't have the final formulation of this. So like Professor Dr. K was saying yesterday, the principles matter. If you understand the principle, you understand the risk. So one of the things that I realized years later, that the shielding methods, this shielding approach, it was not working in a lot of people. After a few years, they get a relief in the beginning, but after a few years, they will start to get trouble again. They lose the homeostasis, they start to feel with more fatigue. And one of the things that happened was, as soon as we take out the shielding approach, they start to recover again. Now, last year came out a very interesting paper, scientific paper that was from DOD, Department of Defense. They were recognized about cellular communication and microbiome. And they acknowledge, they measure that the microbiome and cellular communication happens in a microwave frequency band. So the microbiome is talking in a microwave frequency bands. In the same frequency bands that we are using nowadays with 5G. And actually, they conduct this research, and they showed and they present the results around a specific type of bacteria that is in our skin. And the skin conductance change because the way the microbiome is interacting is changing because it's interacting. But you know, some of you are very more experts in this. You know, we don't have only microbiome in our gut. We have our microbiome in our brain. We have microbiome in our skin, but we have microbiome in the soil, in the air. We have microbiome, and we are like a community interacting with the microbiomes. So the problem is when we put in shielding devices, we are blocking the natural interaction with the cellular communication, the microbiome, the natural flow also of the magnetic fields. From the magnetosphere, it changed. And I knew this because I conducted research in the Curaçao Island with magnetometers to measure the magnetic field from Earth and how it changed. It's not the same stable in the same value, it changed. in some structure in the cities change the flow. But you put something very like a Faraday cage, you will change the flow. But at the same time, the problem of the shielding is the electronic devices interpret the shielding as an interference, something that's interfering with the connection. So the electronic devices use more energy to make the connection because the shielding materials are blocking the connection. So in the end, if you have a cell phone, if you put a case of anti-radiation, it's going to block the emission in some areas of your phone, but your phone will interpret this like you are in an area of poor quality of signal. So it will use more energy to make the connection. So in the end, you will build a greater bubble of electromagnetic radiation. So in the end, the people are more exposed because of this. That's the reason nowadays it's forbidden in several US armies and military, the shielding methods. In any space agency that you can look for, and they in China, they are very, they know this for years and years, and also in the Russian Space Agency, they know this because they understand this. And now here in the US, they understand this too. You can see it in the guidance. So, but we can do something. So the umbrella effect, like Professor Feynman, one of the founders of the quantum physics, nanotechnology, he speak about the umbrella effect in the 60s. And the umbrella effect is very, very powerful. That's important to do grounding in a daily basis. And we start to try it with my wife and these 3 or 4 initial EHS people. If they can increase the amount of time doing grounding every day, it will get a relief from the signs and symptoms. It was true. But they still receive headaches, they still receive pain, especially from Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and 4G. So the umbrella effect is very powerful because it increases the biofield, strengthens your biofield. And it's one of the things that you can do. So adopting healthy habits is key to fortifying your biofield. But remember, these alone are not sufficient to guard against influence of EMF. So you can use airplane mode in your phone, that's good, and other devices during the night. Disconnect TVs and other devices in the bedroom before sleeping, that's good. You are reducing the amount of bubbles that you are close by in near field exposure. Avoid close contact with microwave, of course. Spend at least 20 minutes a day grounding yourself. Get at least 20 minutes of natural sunlight exposure per day. That will reset your system. And there is several studies around this, and now in PubMed, you can find around hundreds of studies and research papers around actually sky gazing, how it's resetting your brain in their interaction, because the most powerful microwave radiation is from the microbiomes, and the most powerful electromagnetic radiation that we're exposed is from sun. In magnitudes, in order of magnitudes, is thousands of times higher. So we need to keep in mind that, but we need to understand so that this somehow work as a macronutrient, like the earth. It's a very powerful antioxidant defense system. Is going to build up, taking the electrons from earth. But the problem with EMF pollution nowadays, 5G and 6G electrosmog. I know about 6G. I have to go to get a special training to be certified as a specialist in 6G to understand the architecture of 6G. I did the same in 2015 to understand the 5G architecture, and it's crazy what is coming, but we need to understand it. And I'm not going to spend so much time in this, but I need to give you the principles and you can relate. My focus today, I'm going to run to several slides to give you the feeling and the criteria that you can use to do the correct actions in your daily life and what we can do. So, what is the problem from radiation? This is the first paper that came out after 15 years of research. the polarization, a key difference between man-made and natural electromagnetic fields in regard to biological activity. Now it's well established. Actually, last year I received the pre-publication, and now it's totally available, 500 pages published by Panagopoulos and a couple of 200 scientists. They published a very complete encyclopedia about the process and the mechanisms that are involved to this polarization. Because, for instance, PMF is super powerful, super good. We already knew about PMF today, yesterday. So if PMF is using, for instance, 20,000 milligauss, and you are exposed to 20 milligauss from your cell phone, how your cell phone is affecting your life if the 20,000 milligauss of PMF therapy is helping you. The reason is this: the polarization that happens in telecommunication to modulate waves to put information in the way we do it. So when you start to understand this, you understand that the real problem is in the core. In the polarization, what it's doing actually is changing the way our electrons are like a battery, are reacting to electromagnetic field, external electromagnetic field. So the spin of the electrons that are the main core of what we call the angular momentum, in the magnetic, the quantum behavior of the electrons in the whole system, this spin react to external electromagnetic fields. That's the way we can make an MRI. That's the reason that the PMF therapy works, because we will put the spins to resonate in a specific frequency to these external electromagnetic fields. But the problem with these sources from artificial sources, from telecommunications, and especially for alternated current, is putting our electrons in phase with a polarized modulated waves, changing the way our cell's polarity works. And that's the process that happens that activates in our cell's membrane what is called the voltage-gated calcium channel ion. And we're receiving excess of calcium intracellular level. That's the whole thing. When I knew this in 2004, 19 years ago, it was not the amount of evidence we have right now. Right now is clearly, everybody in the EMF community, they understand this, but back in 19 years ago, the whole approach was keep away of that, and that's it. But now that we know this, and when I knew this 19 years ago, we say, okay, let's go and try to look for solutions that we can do something. Maybe there is something that we can do that avoid to the spins of the electrons get in phase with this external modulation. And at that time, actually, I also think it, because I have to see the evidence, the data, I think it was impossible. But you know the saying that everything is impossible until someone does it. So we found a solution after several years of research that there is a way that we can do something. And we can do it actually taking advantage of natural properties of gold nanoparticles. Like, this is the main subject here is, now we have strong evidence, and I will show you that you can understand what is happening in how we can solve it, in how we can build a filtering solution, and how it works, and why all this other system also works, but works in a different level. So the principle is the spin. The spin biochemistry modulates, for instance, reactive oxygen species. Everything is around the spin. So the spin polarization and quantum spins in gold nanoparticles, we found that it's related to a specific response that is, like we call nowadays, a super coherent field in the quantum field. a super coherent field. So produce a specific response around the space that it has a residual effect. It comes from the gold, producing what is called the spin vortex resonance. That's actually our patent around gold, palladium, and titanium. And it's patented worldwide, more than 70 countries. And the process is we're interacting. The material needs to interact with the space. And basically works like that. It's applying nanomagnetism. So the ferromagnetic behavior of this gold in this specific size is unique. Actually, until 2012, the Japanese Radiation Institute acknowledged that the gold could behave as a ferromagnetic in the nanometric scale, because if you take the gold, you have jewelry in gold, that's good, that's nice, but that's not nanomagnetic, because the only way to get this response is if you reduce the size of the particle and you stabilize with other materials, other metals, and you keep it in that size. That's the reason we need to make a films, round films, if we isolate the films with a recyclable plastic in order to keep the response of the gold nanoparticle in that level. And that's the way they call it right now, is ferromagnetic. For me, it's not the best word, but sometimes in science, when you have a response, you don't know how to name it, to label it. They call it in nanotechnology just a ferromagnetic behavior, but it's more than that, because all you know that in quantum is different. In electrodynamics, quantum electrodynamics is more than just the particle, it's the field, how it's behaving the field. So what it's producing is a super coherent field that if you want to look, if you are a scientist, you can look for Felix Bloch, a famous physicist in the early 1920s. He was talking about the domain walls in the magnetic orders. This is all related to this. In this fundamental level, the nano size is not the quantum size, but you can see reflex of the quantum phenomenon in the nanometric scale. And if you go below the nanoscale, all the behaviors are magical, are crazy, because are different. So one of my training in material science I completed in Georgia Tech in 2015 in the IN Institute was how the titanium behave and how the different copper behave. And for instance, all of you know that copper is conductive, moving electron, very good. We're using wires. But if you take the copper and reduce it, it will behave as an isolating material. So what you have as a behavior in macro scale, in the nanoscale, is not the same. It's not the same rule. It's different because it's set by the quantum fields that are interacting in this level. So the material basically is interacting, and I have here, this is the first time I bring from my bedroom for this event, because in the past I never did it. This is one of the powerful filters for high exposure to 5G, because we need it. We're exposed nowadays like never before. So the material is not sending negative ions to space. No, it's just interacting. The energy is interacting with the material and getting the response. So it's building up around the space. So this is a process that we are actually wiping out 2 billion interference in the whole electromagnetic spectrum from 0 hertz to 300 gigahertz. So, but it's non-invasive, it's not putting a specific frequency in motion. So it's a multi-frequency filter, and you can work with your healing system with any frequency. The biological response that you get from the frequency you are using is going to be faster. Because what we are actually doing here is taking advantage of this super coherent field, and we're cleaning the space from this quantum noise. And we can measure the quantum noise. Very important remark that Dr. Ruby said the first day was, where is the evidence? Because we need to say, back our statements in evidence, not in hypothesis. And for instance, and I will move with this thought, if you place the disk in your bedroom, for instance, and you have your Wi-Fi router in the other bedroom or in the other room, you will be protected from what? You will be protected from the microwave that is coming from the far field exposure from the router. But if you walk and go to look something in your office, you will expose to the near field. It's low frequency radiation, is still harming you. But if you move the disk, if you place the disk close to the router, you will interact with both, with low frequency and high frequency, with the near field, and the far field response is going to be clear. So it matters where you place the material. It's very important. And in technical studies, what type of technical studies we have? We have studies on interference SAR tests, a specific absorption rate. We basically shoot signals to a cell phone, so we look how it behaves. We prove that it's reducing 90% the peaks of the emission of the cell phone. Even we are not blocking the functionality of the device because we are cleaning the interference in the vicinity. The cell phone use less battery, so it will produce less bubbles. It's going to be a weaker bubble, and the bubble is going to be filtering out. We have studies in OTA tests. This is a summary. And also in laboratories, very, very professional laboratories, the same that telecoms use, and Wi-Fi propagation pattern, and RF network analysis. And we run EMF assessment of near-field exposure to figure out this. And we have biophysical studies in HRV and brain and tinnitus. We conduct specific brain studies using people suffering from tinnitus, and I will explain more about it. Brain and cognitive decline, sleep quality, and by far the biofields and the stress response, and a lot of things I will share with you what we're doing with BioWell change everything. Actually, with BioWell studies, we have a protocol that we use, and we need to use the full spectrum of the features that we can do with the GDV camera. I mean, we do it for people and we do it for the spaces, for the environments. So we have a protocol to do assessment in specific spaces. So we run specific scans with Sputnik and also with the water sensor. We use 2 GDV devices to do this type of test simultaneously and see it, how it's behaving in water, what is the signal we're getting from the Sputnik. And we work with the people that have suffering from EMS sensitivity. We have a set of protocol, 10 types of different scans that we can conduct in them, and we can figure out how sensitive they are, how they're responding, and different other things. So, summary of the scientific validation in Spiro is 11 case studies, 11 independent studies. Actually, it's 11. Today is 11. I just see it now. And 11 independent studies, 2 pilots, and 1 clinical trial, thanks to Professor Krotkov that helped us to coordinate this. I will show you. We have all these studies that changed. It was something that took 10 years to collect, to do it properly. And now we are in a different position because we have the scientific data to show you. For instance, this is the type of test we have in laboratories: change interference, change the way that is propagating the signal. We place the filter, and we figure out how it's behaving, how it's responding, the reduction in the emission of the cell phone, and the double-blind clinical study on Spiro. This published already in the Journal of Applied Biotechnology and Bioengineering. And thanks for Professor Korotov that helped us to coordinate this, and studies on stress with the GDV camera, heart rate variability, sleep quality. Actually, this is the subjects. 50 subjects, healthy, young athletes. And we use a 25 experimental group, 25 control group. We give it a simple disk, not the disk for industrial exposure, and a card for the cell phone. We have a filter for the radiation of the cell phone, and for 30 days. And in a very difficult time, because it was the end of 2021, and the results were incredible, really incredible. It's like, for us, before and after, when we start this process with independent studies, we start in 2014, my wife and I, we was really, really interested in see the results, independent studies. I mean, we found so amazing people that want to collaborate with us, that want to help us. And that's I will take a minute to acknowledge this, because I never knew no one about Dr. K. I don't know nothing about Dr. K. I saw it in an interview. I sent her an email. I said to my wife, maybe he will answer me next year. I don't know. And he answered me in a few hours. And we got to do a Zoom call, and it was crazy, because a few weeks later that we were planning how we can do a scientific study around this, clinical study. And I received feedback from different customers in Spain, and they were starting to say to me, it's incredible, the range of action of the disc is 23 feet. And I said to my wife, oh my God, we spent 4 years and almost $1 million in research to find out the freaking range of action of the filter. And these guys in Spain, they're saying to me the same feet. I never said to them the feet. I say, okay, no. Let me ask them, how do you figure out this? And they say, oh yes, we were working with Sputnik. Do you know GTV camera? Oh my God, I'm losing time here. Send me that. And they send me that. I start to look at it to Sputnik. I say to my wife, this is the answer. Because if we can show this, we can also go to customers and see how and where the response is not at all working. So we start to get involved in this in parallel with the clinical trial. It was very interesting, the synchronization, that when everything is aligned, go with the flow, it start to appear, the collaboration. And Julian Marin is a friend, and is also a friend from Dr. K in Spain. Now he's working with us for 3 years, and we have like 150 clinical nutritionists working with us, and we help already more than 1,200 people from suffering from EMF in Spain, using BioWell, using different protocols. So we finished this, and we move forward. This is the first study with Germany and the International Association for Electrosmoke Research in 2014. Very open. They did this for us in different conditions, shows improvement in heart rate variability. And I developed, after finally BioWell appears in my life, I developed a technique to teach and to give to the EMF consultants a way that we can actually see the disturbance, the quantum noise, and we can relate cross-reference of data. Because we use different softwares in telecommunications. We use these EMF meters with data logging. We can download information and study this with frequency selectivity, very important. If you go to Amazon, you take one of those and you start to measure, you don't know what you're measuring. What is the source? In what frequency? That matters. So I teach to any consultant how to use this to explore. But for instance, I have in my back, I travel always, that this is not the scientific tools. This is only for me for travel to understand my spaces. But I have to use several, because otherwise I don't know really what I'm seeing. I have to see different windows. And for instance, I already measured in the last 9 years 42 cities in 14 countries, different urban locations in Asia and Europe, in Latin America and the US. And I always need to see different windows when we are conducting research. So we're teaching this. And with this IS technique, we can cross-reference of data, and what we have is this. We are using instruments, EMF meters, RF spectrum analyzers, BioWell, a Sputnik and water sensor, everything of BioWell, everything. And always we need to use BioWell. The apps that are using in telecom, and this is very good because when I go to any commercial project, I will get the response, I'm an engineer, I don't know nothing about this, I don't believe this is going to harm us. And what type of tool you are using? No, we are using the same tools you are using in telecom. I'm not controlling, it's not my software, I'm doing something in the software, it's your software. You can pick any software you want. The only software that I will put is the BioWell and the instruments of BioWell. So we found that there is a way to do it, and I use an AI algorithm, and I also working in AI to do it faster. And I work with NEMA with a project to do it even better. And we're planning something interesting with BioWell software, Noxtak, and different other tools to do something interesting for next year for BioWell practitioners. But as I said, theory is one thing, the real world is another. So let me show you quickly how this unfolds in a practical setting. This person, he has 60 years old. This is a case of tinnitus, ringing in the ears. This is in Naples and Florida, and he was trying to kill himself because they placed that antenna that he has behind, and he started to feel pain and also the ringing in the ears in 100 decibels of noise, annoying all the time. So he tried to sue the mayors, and he tried to do different things in media, different articles and papers. We go there, we treat the space. You can see the filters in the chair close to the air coil, and we start to treat the space. Actually, this was the same day we placed the disc, and the wife, and we'll show you the picture, say, this is the first time he stands like this, because he always was complaining, and he stands for the picture. And this is Dr. Luis Miguel from Naples. He has 3 centers. He has 28 years as an audiologist, and also he's expert in tinnitus management for the last 17 years. He teach me all I know about tinnitus management. I work with him 7 cases. And this is one of the happy moments that we always get when we treat the spaces. We are not treating patients, we're treating the spaces. And the important here is that the tinnitus, now we know, is a central gain control that happens in your brain. So basically, it's a phantom noise. It's not outside. It's made by your brain. It's called central gain. And now the latest research is tinnitus is hearing loss. And I have cases of people that get early tinnitus with 25 years old. A young lady just 7 months ago, early tinnitus 25 years ago because of the AirPod. You know? So this is something that is coming more than ever before. Thanks to Dr. Luis Miguel and being part of his scientific team, we were invited to share our 7 cases. Actually, we were 2 weeks ago here in Harvard. This is Keith Darrow, Dr. Keith Darrow. He's a neuroscientist, and this is my wife, and Dr. Luis Miguel on the left. And he is the one that nowadays is in Harvard. He make a PhD in tinnitus management. And he was presenting the result that the problem is in the brain. So it's not it's not in our ears, it's something that's happening in our brain too. And we have results, incredible results, when people with a powerful filter. Now, Dr. K, I have a gift for you, and please, I don't want to forget that. Last time I forgot, then I'll say, oh my God. And so we place them, okay, put this below the pillow and sleep like that, because you have a serious problem. And the tinnitus start to be reduced. It's happened in the 7 cases, 5 of these 7 cases. And the other 2, they get a reduce of 20% only. But this is still something for them. When you have a noise, it's reduced a little bit, it's something. So we are open in a study. Dr. Luis Miguel, he was with us in February with NIMA in advanced training in BioWell. And he's planning, actually he was trying to be here, but after this Harvard Congress, he was in other event, and he could come. But we are planning a scientific trial, a medical trial, sorry, here in the US, conducting, and we're trying to reach 100 patients with tinnitus, and from the centers in Naples, Lehigh, and Fort Myers. And he's planning to use BioWell because he understands the importance of BioWell, because we run different tests with some of these patients in BioWell. I don't have time, this is a different lecture for that. There's a lot of information. But just to give you an overview of this. And for commercial, for instance, this is a project we already did in Florida, in a building, in an office. We always enter, we place the Sputnik in different places, and we just start to measure, that's the filters below the computer. After we finish the first scan, we start to place the filters according to what the software are giving us, the main sources of pollution. And we use the software of telecom. We place it in all different locations. This is the software from telecommunications showing that we take out the noise level from radio frequency interference, and only remains the interference related to the structure that is from metals and different things. That's the reason, and you already know, that the space and the energy of the spaces are also related to the architecture. So you have so many things of metals, you will still have an interference always, will remain that. It's like you have metals in your mouth. It works as an antenna. So keep in mind this. This is the solution, and this is the filter for dirty power. Very important, because the electrosmog is not only what you're receiving by microwave radiation in the bubbles. Also, these bubbles are coming from the power lines, from the outlets. It's not the outlet, it's where the wire is going. Normally in your bedroom, it's going above your head. You have a lot of things connected there. The bubble is larger. It's more amperes, so you have more flowing of voltage there, so you're immersing a stronger field in low frequency. But the problem is, these wires work as an antenna in your house, and what it's doing actually is working as a magnet for radio frequencies. So these radio frequencies interference are also circulating in the wires. And that is called dirty electricity. If you can take an AM radio and take the antenna and go close to your outlet, you can hear the interference. Or you can use a professional meter and connect it to the outlet, and you can hear. Actually, if you go to our table tomorrow with our table outside, you will see that we have 1,500 millivolts in the power line. If you put the filter, it will reduce to 20. This is the first filter that we built with the Spiro material inside. In the past, we used another filter, very good in the market. There is a very good filters in the market. But the problem is that some of these filters are also, of course, generating electromagnetic fields. And the people that are so sensitive, they can't handle it. So you need to hide it from them. They can be they need to be at least 20 feet away. In some cases, in some homes, it's impossible. So what we did in the past was we take our cards, the filter for the cell phones, and we place it with tape, and they can handle it. After we get some funds, we develop this. And now we are collaborating with our friends in Europe to build an European version, because we have the patent, and if you have any technology, we can offer you our help, we can offer you our technology, our filters, we can build in your technology with the filter from built in, and to avoid the emission is going to be polluted. So we place it in the office. You will reduce always the exposure, but also is something incredible that happened when we place this in the space. We are not blocking. To put this in context, we are not blocking the radiation, but still, all the electrical appliances and electronic devices are in a space clean of quantum noise. So because it's clean, all the functionality is better and optimized. So the devices use less energy to function. And what this translates to what? Reduce the amount of bubbles around the things. And this is one of our measurements in this project. You can see the orange is the amount of volts per meter electrical field in these locations, the maximum and the average from the whole location. And after we place the disk, you have a reduction super significant, because all the devices works with less energy. So it's an energy efficiency response. The same with the magnetic flux. The same with the signal, because we can see the whole spectrum using specific professional tools. We can see the whole window of frequencies. When we place the disk, this happens. You only keep the signal you are requiring. The rest is overlapping, is gone. And for instance, this is a before and after. The red is good because you are taking interference. You have to green is bad. So we have different tools and we have different conditions, because when we go, for instance, this podcast space, interacting with different electronic devices, we need to be sure that the scans are properly made. You are understanding the whole space, the near field exposure, and all the frequency that are interacting there. So we run the scan and we have different, but this is the best for us. The activity level of environment in BioWell is incredible. When I get more involved in this, thanks to one of the first training course in the University of Atlantic, something like that, in Grupo Tuban in Spain, I registered there with my wife, and I did research trying to see, okay, if you have an empty space, no persons, what happened with the activity level of an environment? It needs to be quiet, but there is plants in the space. What happened? And I go to a very polluted place with 500 Wi-Fi signals in the Brickell area of Miami. And I try to measure this, and then I place the disk, and I start to see difference. So I build a protocol for this. The activity level of the environment, this is variations very crazy. But when you push, you see in different locations, it's like this. Unstable, like this, it's like a dead. We put the water, it's like a dead water. It's affecting the water, it's affecting the water in our cells. The people are living there. And we have this response when we place the disk. You can see it. After 20-25 minutes, the activity level of environment is controlled. It goes to a meditation state. We run tests in young people making calls. And there is a variation with one finger test, and it's reduced just to 6%, below 10%. It's in the beginning, right, they received the heat. They were making a call and placing here, direct to the heart. Very crazy, but it was for the study we were making with 10 subjects. So we had different studies. Also with water, I'm looking forward. I love the video around water structure is I love it. I love it really in Dr. Krishna. I'm looking forward to know more about it. By serendipity, this material with the nanoparticle of gold produce this nanomagnetic behavior, super coherent, get a response on the water. The water responds to this. And my first thought on this was, okay, send it to Dr. K. And I send it to him, and the simple disk. And I don't have a clue what's going to happen because that's science. I don't know. Let's see the data. After he gets the results and he sent it to me, congratulations, Joaquin, I say, okay, let's go deep in this and what we can learn about this. And we go deep. And for instance, this was in my home, we start with this. After we get the result, the same week, we start to do experiments. And we have this plant, it was almost die because we moved, it was placed close to electrical high voltage line. So this is the response. We start to feed it with the structured water, with the material. And this is the response. 2 months. Start to grow. 5 months. Bam. Very, very, very important for us because it was in a before and after. And nowadays, we are doing so many things. But now we're open to learn more because we're not the expert in the field. We're just doing experiments, okay? And our customers are also doing experiments. But yeah, we received a gold medal in Silicon Valley because of our results, the Edison Award. We were acknowledged as one of the 3 emerging disruptive technologies because we are the first technology that actually can explain, and I never explain deeply what is happening here, but I can explain it. This is a different lecture. I have to go deep, but we can explain it. And it took 12 years to raw the model, understand the mechanisms, at least in a 80% accuracy. And now, with the spiral fields response, this is just a thought. This phenomenon is not slowing down. Guys, really, it's only intensifying. And according to several studies, more people are getting electrohypersensitivity. My wife, she developed this because she was exposed to the telecom company direct. And we move, we get married, we rent an apartment, a small apartment, and we were exposed to a cell phone tower. And she was always in pain. We need to move. We moved from there. And we moved to Iceland and Aruba. But nowadays, I'm getting readings using as an EMF meter that in the past, the readings was only in industrial facilities, close to power lines. And now I'm getting these readings everywhere. And I finished a project in Las Vegas, Nevada, 1 month ago, in 5G millimeter waves. It's the first time I found the millimeter waves. It's crazy. So this is coming. More people suffering from EMS sensitivity, and I don't have enough time to help people because it's not only okay. Take the product, place it there, and that's it. No, because the people need to understand all the aspects of the electromagnetic hygiene. It's also habits. I will invite you because some of you have EMF meters. If you don't have it, buy one. Do your own experiment. If you take your cell phone and you plug it to charge the cell phone in the wall, place the meter and see the exposure in electrical field. See the exposure. And use a power bank, wireless power bank, a battery, and place it. And you will see the exposure is 500 times less. I never plug my electronic devices to the wall. I always use my laptop charge. I never use it charging because the electrical field is alternated current. And I put the dirty filter to what? To take out the dirt electricity filter, take out 200,000 interference, and we remain only with the 60 hertz. But the 60 hertz is alternating current in your body, and we know, because some of you are very wise around energy medicine, you know our body works with direct current, not with alternated current. We have a charge here, negative, positive, positive, negative, negative, positive. You have different charge. That's the reason that we use magnets to heal, to recover. Healing is voltage. We need to increase the voltage. We know that. But the alternating current is part of the problem. So we teach to people with EMS sensitivity about the habits of use of technologies. So you need to have healthy habits, ground yourself, use the technology in a good way, and use filters. And more than ever before, start to use all the resources you have. If you have a frequency device that will put a resonance, use it, use it. But if you have this type of technology, it's not going to compete. I have several, actually hundreds of customers that they use different energy devices, PMF therapies, and they are using with this as the foundation to set the space in a clean response in the noise, in the quantum noise. So with Nima told me, Joaquin, we need to do something because you need people like any biowell practitioner because people are calling you from different places. I shared with Nima, we opened the GEMS Academy, and we tried to make EMF consultants. Actually, last week, I finished a workshop for 3 months intense to have EMF consultants, and we have right now 107 and 20 from the other workshop, 127. All these persons that are being trained as an EMF consultant, they want to get the biowell, they understand the importance to incorporate a more holistic approach to read and scan the spaces, but it's not enough. We are reaching right now 14 countries, but we are getting requests for 50 countries. So the gap is super wide. And I'm convinced that biowell is our perfect partner because we're family, we're friends, and we can feel that we are the same. We are one. So talking with Nima, say, okay, let's figure out what a biowell practitioner needs to understand to be an EMF coach. Like Bruce in Harvard was saying, I think it was this morning with Nima, health coach. You don't need to be an engineer. You don't need to know all these complex things I was saying. You need to understand the principles, what matters. If you understand the principle, how to use simple tools, and the IAS technique is for that, apps, softwares, and meters, simple meters, you can do a difference. You can do a difference with people, but also you can do a difference with commercial projects. Because I'm getting requests from different states, from different countries, and some places like Spain, I have literally 170 resellers. And they can go there and help people. But in places, different places in Latin America, in different places, I have one person in Thailand, and they start to send emails, people suffering from EMF, suffering from this. And who can help these people? So we launched a nonprofit organization to start to conduct in a super massive way scientific research. It's called IFIA, Electro-Smoke-Free Environment International Accreditation, actually to put a criteria. And a multidisciplinary group, Dr. K is part of the scientific council because it's part of Noxtak as a scientific advisor. And we are trying to build this with EMF consultant and now with biowell practitioners. Make it as a family and to conduct research. There is tons of interest on research, and experimental evidence break what you are believing about the risk. Believe me, I finished a project in EV cars, Tesla. I have a couple of ladies suffering in California from EHS sensitivity from the Tesla car. And I was convinced that, okay, probably it's an electrical car, so it's going to be crazy, the electrical field. And you know what? The electrical field was fine. They do an awesome job isolating the electrical field. The problem was the radio frequency. So you need to do measurements to understand the risk, to understand the enemy. In this case, we can say that. So this is the BioWell EMF Mastery Certification, to know also how to use the products. I really sacrifice a lot of information, believe me. I know you have tons of questions. I try to condense, but it's difficult. But I only want to give you a final thought. There is billions of people suffering from this. And this is not about what is the best solution. We need to work as a community. We need to work as a family. If you have something you can do in this field, let us know. In the FIA nonprofit, we're working with Be Heroic, an organization around Save the Bees. We are starting with farmers, but I'm getting requests, I'm one of the directors, requests from the Netherlands. We have 100,000 farmers requiring help, but we can charge for this. So we are selling this and we are giving free to farmers through Be Heroic. But if you have a system with frequencies, let's use it. Let's put it in there. The bees are very important. I just leave you that thought. My team is there. Tomorrow you can leave your contact. I will be happy to talk with you. I will be happy to collaborate with you. And really we can make a difference if we work as a family. We can make a difference. Thank you.
So we started these conversations when I heard about their technologies and how many people they're helping. Then I figured out, one of my missions is to help a lot of people, because when I talk to different practitioners, different people, especially our younger group, a lot of them, they're sick and tired of working in corporations and 9-to-5 jobs. So what they want to do is that they're like, Nemo, please educate us, help us, so we can get out of our 9-to-5s and to do something that is actually helping humanity, that we can actually make a difference in our world. So that's been my mission. And I'm blessed with a very smart head, and I'm an entrepreneur, so I have very amazing ideas that has really transformed my life, and I've helped many people to create very successful businesses in their own lives. So now this is my mission, to bring technologies like Noxtak, like technologies like LifeWave, so that now we can create a workforce of amazing practitioners, heart-centered people that can truly make a difference in humanity. So that's the reason that I want to introduce these amazing technologies to you guys, and to create actually a workforce so you can benefit from our collaboration. Thank you so much again. That was beautiful. Thank you. And that finalizes our last topic for tonight. So we're going to have a meet and greet until 7 p.m. tonight. And tomorrow morning, we have a Master of Qigong that will be outside in the hallway at 8 a.m. So if anybody wants to do Qigong tomorrow morning, you're more than welcome to meet Master Masaji, and he will be right outside in the hall. Thank you so much for your attention. I know there was a lot of information being shared today, but take a little bit of time and allow it to just sink in, and I'm sure you're going to benefit from it later. You may even have dreams about it. Have an awesome day, guys.